Alright, Kevin, so you're playing with the white pieces, and let's begin. It's Yekan, and I was smiling when I saw your game, or your opening rather, because this exact line that you're playing here with h4 is also what I have in my repertoire. I've never played like this before, but I do have it as an option in my repertoire. Actually, I have it as an option already here, but when I checked, I realized it doesn't make a difference because in all the lines, white puts the bishop on e3 anyway, so I don't think it matters if you start with h4, bishop e3. And I think castle here is already quite brave to put it in a positive way. I think it's quite dangerous for black. Black should probably go h5 or h6 to be able to stop this opening of the h file. So castle h5, knight c6, but now this is really, I would say, the beginning of your problems here, playing bishop d3. And it seems like either you you didn't spend that much time on this opening, because otherwise you probably would have known how to play, or you forgot it. Those are the two options. But after bishop d3, it's already black who's more comfortable, right? So as you point out the right way, and actually what I also checked in my line, in my own opening file, h takes g6, forcing black to make a decision. And if black takes with the h pawn, now you can go d5, followed by bishop d4. And you can go f4, and black can defend here, but it is definitely more pleasant to play for white. Of course, knight takes c4 wouldn't work because white can take once, take the bishop, give a check, double attack, and after knight e5, the knight is pinned and will be picked up. So, of course, black can also take with the f pawn, but now you can just develop knight h3, and this is not comfortable. Not comfortable. The knight can come to f4 or g5, then you can maybe go bishop d3. There are possible sacrifices in the air, some sorts. This is probably what you wanted when you played h4. And I think maybe you didn't pay enough attention to your opponent's plans. But d5 is actually the typical strike that black plays, and actually it also makes a lot of sense when you talk about general principles in chess. There's this rule of thumb: if your opponent plays on one of the wings, then you should strike back in the center, and that's what black is doing here by playing d5. So I'm not sure if you maybe played this move too fast, but definitely seems like you didn't pay enough attention to your opponent's plans and resources. So d5 takes, and now c5, and you criticize that move. I think it does make sense. And the right reply for black wasn't obvious. So yes, c5 is objectively a worse move than c takes d5, but I think it's a good practical choice. Because after c takes d5, knight takes d5, knight f3, let's say. Now this whole, you spend 2 moves or 3 moves rather playing h4, h5, but you haven't really gained anything from it, right? There's no attack. Black has made sensible moves, and it's just uncomfortable here, obviously, because, well, where do you put your king? Your king position is also now weakened. It's not pleasant, definitely. All right. So c5, like I said, I think it's a good practical choice. And the opponent goes for a natural move here, which is so typical. When black goes d5, c5, knight c4 is automatic. And what the opponent missed was that he could go e5 here, which was quite strong. But we're not going to go into this. I mean, you looked at it yourself as well, because, well, it's just not interesting to us so much what black could have done better. So knight c4, bishop h6, and I think this is probably a calculation mistake, I would say. Because like you're saying, you're really committing to the attack, and if you do that, you really gotta be sure. So you really, I don't know how much time you spent here, but you really need to take your time, make sure that you're not missing any, well, good defense. And black does have a good defense here. So bishop takes c4, as you say yourself, was the move you had to play. And you can maybe still later get something going along the h file. And also with this change of structure, has some more dynamic in the position, and it's really not that clear. You give this line here where black puts the bishop on d3, this looks very natural, and then here we can see what I was talking about. Now the queen comes over to f3 and you have some ideas on the h file. And the king is actually fairly safe here. Now it makes sense that you played h4, h5. So here I think bishop h6 is simply a calculation mistake. So this is all pretty clear. And here you probably thought, okay, I'm going to take on g7 next and I have an attack going. But this is a standard theme which is more common in the Sicilian, or more specifically the dragon, where black just gives the exchange to keep his monster bishop. To keep this bishop, which is so important in guarding the squares around the black king. So bishop takes d4, picking up a second pawn and keeping this monster bishop. And you did exactly the right thing. He recognized if you take on f8, you don't have any attack going. Black has such an easy play with your king being weak, black having the bishop pair, c5 also hanging loose. So definitely good to go knight g2 here. And now black is a little bit greedy. I mean, bishop takes c5, picking up another pawn, but I would have liked to keep my bishop on this diagonal. Okay, bishop takes c5. And now g4. Yeah, g4 loses. Okay, it's a try. Of course, your position is difficult anyway, but yeah, you should have gone for knight takes d5, certainly, like you're saying. And here you give the line. Now black moves the rook, makes sense. And now queen c3 is possible. The line you're giving here, queen c3. You thought at this position it's easier to play for black, and sure, I agree, but you do win the exchange, and I think you can put up a lot of resistance. It's not that easy to convert that position, even though of course it's easier to play for black, but still takes a lot of effort to win this. There's another option here to make it more complicated, and this is really what you want to do when you are in the worst position. You want to complicate things and give your opponent the chance to go wrong, right? If we go into this endgame that we just saw, black can do lots of things and he's always better pretty much. Here black has to play quite precisely to be better. Okay, he can take, obviously, because of checkmate. Queen h6, queen h8. And queen h6 is a huge threat anyway, so black has to go f6, queen h6. And now he has to find this move, g5, which is possible, but it's not easy, right? Black could maybe think he need to play something else. But h6 is the way to go. I mean, king f7, there's queen h7. And queen takes d5 just doesn't work, because check, check, and picking up the queen. So black has to find g5, no rook d1, king f7, castle, and yes, black is better here, but it's still messy, right? It's still messy. And that's what you want in such a situation. Give your opponent the chance to go wrong. So yeah, knight takes c5 was definitely a way to go. And g4, again, I'm reading a book right now. It's called Thinking Inside the Box by Jacob Aagaard. And I found some concepts quite useful. And one concept is to slow down in calculation. And here, well, it's so automatic. g4 attacks the bishop, I take the pawn, right? And we don't think about anything else. But if we take a look at the position, look for other moves than knight e5, it's rather obvious because it threatens knight f3 and it also threatens the pawn. So slowing down and just doing this candidate search, what I've been talking about pretty much in every stream, just crucial concepts, and that's what Aagaard is also talking about in his book. So yeah, just asking this famous question that I like to talk about pretty much in every stream is just, what else can my opponent play, right? Yeah, am I missing anything? Just prompting your mind to go into this direction, looking for unobvious moves, right? The obvious move is bishop takes g4. Now we want to see if there are unobvious moves. Okay, bishop takes, bishop g7. Like you're saying, it's the best chance. So there's nothing to criticize here. Your position is lost anyway. I mean, you're down 4 pawns, so gotta do something. Oh no, king takes g7 was the clearest way to win, but he plays f6, queen h6, king f7, knight f4, bishop f5. So far so good. Queen h7, king e8, queen h7, king e8, and now there's a critical moment. Now you could have again made it much more difficult for your opponent. You take the rook on f8, which, like you're saying, makes sense, right? Take a free rook, but it seems you, I don't know, you maybe didn't look at black's options too carefully, because otherwise you might have noticed bishop b4, which is really unpleasant. So the way to go was knight f takes d5 when it's really not easy for black to keep his advantage. I mean, first he needs to find this move, bishop d4, which I find difficult already to find. I mean, black has many options, like you're saying, running with the king also makes sense, but then already the advantage is gone, black might even lose. So bishop d4, now bishop takes f8, bishop takes c3, knight takes c3, now another non-obvious move, queen d4, rook c1, and it continues, right? Here black has two ways to keep the advantage, rook d8 or queen e5 check, king f1, bishop d3 check, king g2, and black now has to also realize this, that he can just take the bishop because white cannot pick up the rook, since then black will get a too strong attack going and white has to give the queen as losing. So instead of picking up the rook on a8, white needs to play something else, and it's still fighting, right? It's still not over here, so that was definitely the way to go. And yeah, like I said, I think you did not pay close enough attention to your opponent's possibilities here. And you're saying to yourself, I have a bad habit of missing my opponent's strong moves during my own calculation. I missed the bishop takes d4 idea and the later bishop b4. Yeah. That's normal, right? I mean, it happens to all of us all the time. We miss moves. So it's very normal. And I see Top Schach is also in the stream. Welcome, Top Schach, fellow YouTuber here. And you guys can feel free to check out his channel, but of course only after the stream is over. Yeah, so it's very natural to miss moves, and what can I say? It's just about practice. Just about practice, and always looking, solving exercise, and solving studies and compositions, like I told you before, is I think a good strategy, because there often your opponent has hidden resources to still put up resistance. All right, so bishop takes f8, bishop b4. Okay, and here, okay, you play rook c1. Yeah, it's a tough situation. I also looked at knight e2, but now just king takes f8, king f1, takes d4. But still, I feel like maybe you can ask some more questions again here. Rook e1, now threatening queen h8 check, obviously in mate, so black has to go king e8, knight e4. It's lost, of course, it's lost. Black has just too many pawns, way too many pawns, but maybe some more questions can be asked here. And also another move I looked at was castle. Now bishop takes c3, now also interesting, just rook a b1. Threatening rook takes b7, just posing some questions again. Black doesn't want to give the bishop right now. And this is still a little bit messy, right? You want to keep it messy. You want to keep it messy. Okay, just other options. Maybe not better than rook c1, but maybe objectively not better, let's put it this way, but maybe messier still. Okay, rook c1, d4, queen g8, king d7, now castle, queen takes f8, queen d5 check, bishop d6. Okay, I think knight a4 is fine. Queen h8, and now there was once again the chance to stay in the game. Even though, yes, position remains lost, but, well, gotta keep on fighting. Keep on fighting. King g2. Nice move to play rook h1 and push the queen away again from the h file. And like you're pointing out here, black needs to find some good moves to keep the advantage. It's not that easy. It is a nice maneuver here, knight e6, really nice. Unfortunately, black does have that move bishop e4 check when he consolidates, and all is left an endgame with an exchange for 4 pawns, so this is completely winning for black. But he needs to find a sequence, and again you keep it messier, keep posing problems. I mean, that's what it's all about in a worse position, is just keep posing problems. And after knight c5, king e8, you can't really pose any problems anymore here. Knight takes b7. Of course, it took some calculation from him to see this, but now his king is safe, and your king is actually the one who's not safe. Queen g2, and you were hoping for bishop takes c1 now, which can be answered with knight d6, but bishop e4 is too easy, I guess, to be missed, unfortunately for you, and it's all over now. So quite a complicated game, definitely, where you went all in pretty early in the game with the attack. It just didn't work out that well, and then the rest of the game you had to fight to stay alive, which you did stay alive for a long time, but in the end you could not avoid the loss, unfortunately. So what can you take away from this game? Like you said already, missing strong moves of the opponent in the calculation, and also this specific moment in the opening. Okay, I mean h4, this is fine, of course. This is a more aggressive approach, of course, more risky approach. But I think, well, for one, this move with bishop d3, where it seems you either did not fear d5 or you missed it, and then this all-out move, pretty much, bishop h6. That was really the risky move, where you really need to be sure this is working such an attack and you're not missing anything, because otherwise, like we saw in the game, you're just with the back to the wall already early on. Okay, so yeah, my advice from that game is certainly to do more calculation exercises. We all need to do more, but chess is just so much about calculating and evaluating variations correctly, and yeah, doing clean calculations, that is not missing important moves by the opponent. All right, let me check the chat if you have written anything. All right, so I see you saying, I spent 90% of the opening preparation looking at h5. I always figured castle was too risky. Yes, that is a very common, I guess it's very natural, and it makes totally sense to spend most time on h5 here, as this is also the most natural move, honestly, I think. But of course, now easy to criticize after the game in hindsight, but of course you also want to check really quick, what do I do if he doesn't go h5? And then you just need a few moves to see, okay, I play h5, then I take on g6, and then, okay, there are these two options, h takes g6 and f takes g6, and just check this real quick, how you react to each of them, and that's it. So that's also something I found. If I prepare a new line, a surprise, it sucks if my opponent plays something bad that I haven't looked at, and then I can't figure it out on the board, right? Then the whole opening preparation idea is kind of not worth that much if you don't know how to react to the inferior choice of your opponent, because this is what you're hoping for, right? You hope for your opponent to play something inferior, and then you also want to know how do you react to that. All right. So thanks, Kevin, for this game. I hope this was valuable input from my side. And I think you can definitely keep playing this line of h4. I think it's a quite sensible line, even though probably your future opponents won't play castle again, but who knows. The loss was definitely not to the opening, that's for sure.